Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and today I am joined by the current reigning and defending BFL Featherweight Champion, Mateo Vogel, and Mateo will be defending that championship on October the 12th, this Wednesday night against Taylor Christopher. Mateo, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Well, Mateo, first off, let's talk about the fight you had where you picked up that BFL featherweight title against Nick Ouellette. It was a wild and crazy fight. How did you see it as you were going through it? It was one of the most exciting fights to happen on the Canadian scene this year.
Um, my takeaway from that was, this guy was able to go neck and neck with me with grappling, which was something I wasn't really used to in the past. Right, I was used to always having that kind of edge over people. So to be tested like that, not only with the grappling, but to be tested in terms of it's my first time going 5 rounds and his first time going past round one at the same
Yeah.
time. So hats off to him for that. But my biggest takeaway from that was how deep I was able to dig, because I'd never really been. You guys have seen me come back from some questionable spots in the past, but this was really a testament to my training and my belief in my training and my belief in my preparation, just to show that I could come back from or I could dig that deep and go for 5 rounds hard. You know what I mean? Exchange hard for 5 rounds. So that to me is a big boost in my confidence and a big boost in my training as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'd seen you be in, some wild, crazy fights, but as you said, one that where you went the full 5 rounds to pick up that BFL Featherweight Championship, and for you, obviously being the champion now, Mateo, that's something that you've been striving for on the regional scene here for a while, to get a championship and to obviously work towards taking the next step. What does it mean for you to be the featherweight champion here of BFL?
It feels right, man. It feels like it belongs. Um, Honestly, I've, some people, I'm not taking anything away from other people saying that they're not dedicated, but I've dedicated myself only to MMA for the past 5 or so years. And before that, purely to jujitsu as well for many years. So what I'm saying is it feels right. It feels like the combination of a lot of hard work. It feels like something that belongs. It's a step that I had already visualized. I already told myself that I'm a champion for the past however many years. I've told myself every day. I've written it in my journal. I've said to myself I'm a champion. I that was kind of just confirmation. You know what I mean? Or it, it's a step that belongs. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, we knew you had the potential to do that, and then obviously back in April you were able to accomplish that goal. And just before we look ahead to your first title defense here, how important was it for you, Mateo, to take some fights, in the US during the pandemic when the Canadian scene was pretty much shut down, because you had some good fights out there in CFFC? How important was that for you to get the growth to eventually become this featherweight champion that you became?
Um, I'm I'm grateful for that exposure. To The thing is, I didn't just fight anybody over there.
No.
You know what I mean? Like there's some guys here in Canada are going over there and they're fighting like in the States. I mean, not to see, but some Canadians are going over to the States and they're honestly they're fighting bums. They're fighting a lot of crappy guys. But I went out there and I fought Garrett Armfield. Both of my opponents
Yeah.
just fought in the UFC, right? So
Yeah.
Garrett and Damon both. Uh, so to go toe to toe with those guys, to be the first guy to finish Garrett, to be tested by Damon, to lose to Damon, to actually lose for the first time. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like those were things that propelled me a lot. And you know what? Although I won, like the takeaway from Garrett was big too. I've worked so much boxing and head movement since fighting Garrett Armfield. So both those fights forced me to grow a lot in 1 year. Not to mention COVID was a great opportunity for that. But
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, you fought some of the best guys in a top promotion that where you got more exposure, getting on Fight Pass, and then now fighting for BFL, which is also on Fight Pass. As we look ahead here to this title defense here on Wednesday against Taylor Christopher, another guy that's had a lengthy amateur experience in BFL, 2-0 as a pro. What do you take away from Taylor's skills as he looks to take away your title on October 12th?
Well, it's tough to really gauge because you don't have any recent footage of Taylor. It's a lot of stuff from about a year ago and before. Yeah. So I don't like to hang my hat on that kind of. I'm going in there with a really open mind. Is my biggest takeaway here. I've kind of been prepared for anything, been prepared to take this fight wherever it goes, but I'm not taking anything away from Taylor. Like, although he hasn't been very active, he could be very active in the gym. He looks to be athletic and good shape. So if he wants to, go toe to toe in any area of the fight, like I feel really excited and really confident to showcase my skills in every area as well, including athleticism and all that. I feel that I'm a superior athlete.
100%. I mean, is that kind of hard for you? Are you a guy, Mateo, that likes to look at tape, and just because of how inactive Taylor has been, is that hard for you, or do you like to kind of feel it out as the fight goes on?
I'm not too worried about anything. I worry more about myself. Like, yeah, I look at tape, but ultimately what matters is what I decide to do. I said it before in another interview. Like, it's great to game plan, it's great to study, but if you kind of hang your expectations on that, you got this idea of what this guy's going to do, and then he doesn't do it.
Right.
I mean, what do you do? So it's good to know a little bit, but fighting is such a chaotic thing, man. Fighting is so wild, and like one fight with the same guy might not even look like a fight with another guy. You've seen this a million times. Like the fight science doesn't work out that way. The way Taylor might fight me might be different than how he fights his last opponents. So in that way, I'm more focused on me and what I'm going to do. I'm more focused. That's how my mindset goes.
And how has, focusing on yourself, how has camp gone for this fight here, Mateo? Because you guys at New Era Combat, this is a gym that's really getting things in gear, really being one of the hottest gyms, obviously with yourself becoming featherweight champion. I know Jake Govreau's a really hot young prospect here in Canada as well. And Alex O'Neill's coming off a big win a few weeks ago out at Unified.
Camp and preparation has been great. I don't really make that many changes because we're kind of going year round. We're not picking it up that much for camps. Like I'm always in shape. I'm always working on my athletic platform at the same time. It will shift like when a fight is booked, so I'll adjust training for that. But like in terms of the way camp is going, it's like it's business as usual. And the bonus this time is to have those boys preparing for fights at the same time as me. Mm-hmm. That's how it was when I started. Like Alex and I were training for the same card with Matar, and we were fighting on TKO together. So we were all prepping at the same time. So it's kind of the same vibe. Alex was prepping for Unified. We have other guys prepping for upcoming cards as well. So to have that vibe in the gym is really, really good. We got the winning atmosphere, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like when it's in the air.
And that's got to feel great, too, because I know for a lot of guys in the gyms in Canada, it's been one guy getting ready, in a garage or something because of the COVID restrictions. And now that those are all lifted, it's like, as you said, the winning atmosphere is back there at New Era Combat.
It is. And it's contagious, honestly. That's something I believe. Like when you're in a room of, I've always grown up playing team sports, too. Like I grew up playing hockey, soccer, obviously. But like coming up in jiu-jitsu as well, you're a group of guys competing at the same tournaments and the same tournament circuits, and you're all winning medals together, and like that, just being in that environment of winning and of people chasing goals and crushing things. it's something that's a special vibe, and you don't always get that when you're preparing for things by yourself, you know?
Mhm.
Uh, so that's the bonus of being at New Era, is that we got active competitors all the time.
Yeah, and as we talked about, the gym's really taken off. Guys are prospects like yourself are really getting some good shine right now here. Mateo, as well, with this being another co-main event, another big spot, like what does that mean for you, knowing that that's got to mean a positive, knowing that your career's heading in the right direction for where you want it?
I love that exposure. So to be co-main event, yeah, it's my first time actually. That's co-main event, I believe.
Oh wow.
But to have that exposure, it excites me. But again, it's like the same thing. It just proves that I'm in the right spot.
Mhm.
It proves that I've followed the path, and like all the steps are everything's coming into fruition, so to speak. You know.
And talking about the exposure, I mean, what does it mean for you to be a part of the BFL organization right now? Is they're on Fight Pass, one of the two other promotions that are from Canada on UFC Fight Pass, as you're still trying to gain even more exposure here, and a big performance come Wednesday would continue to add to that for you, Mateo.
Absolutely, man. I love to like one thing I love about BFL is that yeah, it's on Fight Pass and it's got great exposure, and this always excites me. But it's still in my home country. I
Mm-hmm.
love fighting in Canada. You know, fighting in the States was cool, but like honestly, fighting in Canada, I feel has more exposure for someone like me because I'm more, I don't know, just on the circuit. I just feel like there's more eyes on me as opposed to in the past. But fighting in my home country, it's like it's a different vibe. I really enjoy fighting in Canada.
Yeah, what do you make of the scene right now, Mateo? Is obviously COVID, it was kind of hard for a lot of promotions to have multiple cards, but it seems like right now there's a solid resurgence going on, whether it's out west with BFL and Unified. I know BTC, Samurai in Ontario and Quebec are putting on some shows, and even out east, it seems like the sport in Canada is at a decent spot right now, looking to re-go after the COVID pandemic.
It does, man. It's really good. Like maybe it was a bit of a reset, uh, but like things are the Canadian scene is strong as hell right now, man. Like I think like you look at guys like Jake, for instance. Jake had his debut after COVID, so he had his debut at a time when there's not much else going on. So like everyone's eyes were on him right away. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? On that BTC show, and so maybe maybe having the pandemic and all that, like because we had that big long layoff, like everybody was hungry to see it again. You know, everybody, we were all a lot of us were sitting on the bench. A lot of us were going to fight in the States, but we were hungry to fight again in Canada. So, um, yeah, man, there's like, there's new shows as well. And I think Samurai started after the pandemic, right?
Yeah, they
So
started
yeah, like,
last November. Yeah.
yeah. So like we're seeing these new shows pop up and people are hungry to see fights in Canada again, I think.
Yeah, and I mean it only looks better with UFC planning to come to Canada by next year. So the scene is in, I think, a good spot. Looking to
Yeah.
regrow and reboom after the
And that's
pandemic.
and
Oh,
that's what's great about hey, but that's what's great about being a champion in a league like BFL though too. Like if the UFC is coming to Canada again, like being a champ in one of the major promotions is a huge thing. So
mhm.
like again, it's all the more exciting to defend my title on Wednesday.
And as well, like it's kind of interesting for me when you look at the champions at 135 and 145. You and Siri had a killer fight back at BTC 9 just before the pandemic, and now you guys are both champions in 135 and 145. I mean, it's kind of crazy how things work out where you move up a weight class and Siri moves down a weight class.
Yeah, we did the switcheroo. He used to be bigger than me. Yeah, I remember we talked about that a little bit. Siri and I actually sat on the plane together the last BFL. So yeah, we were talking about that a little bit, but like we were super lucky that our fight happened when it did because it happened a week and a half before the pandemic.
Yeah,
Literally,
February 29th of 2020.
just right on time, right on leap day.
Yeah.
You know, right before the pandemic, like a week before my birthday, and like right there, boom. And that's when that was like a weird date. I don't know if you remember that, but like people, like it kind of reached the news, and like all of a sudden everyone was freaking out, and people are buying stuff from the stores. Everyone's taking toilet paper off the shelves at Walmart, and yeah, it was a weird vibe. Everyone's like, "What the hell's going on?" And then the world shuts down the next day.
Yeah. I remember
So
where I was
I
when
think that we were.
I remember where I
Hey?
was when like it was COVID was official, and how things and the weird vibe. And it was like just so happy to see that you and Siri got that fight, and that card got to take place on a weird
Yeah.
day too, like February 29th, a leap day. It's a day that's never ever once around every 4 years. So kind of crazy how that all came together for you and Siri, and now where you guys are in BFL.
Oh man, it was a weird set of things, but yeah, to see his success is awesome too. You know what I mean? Actually, I got to train with him back in just before Christmas. We got to roll a little bit, but that was fun. Yeah.
It's got to be cool too to see two guys from Ontario go out west to and take titles in that promotion.
Honestly, I think our scene is stronger. I don't know. They tried to make a thing about it last time. They're like, oh shit, he called out the West Coast, but like legit, I feel the Ontario scene is the strongest. It's not just Syria and I. It's like you can name off a list of high level guys out of Ontario, whether it's the jiu-jitsu scene or the MMA scene. Like we have super strong guys here, and I think it's like it's our turn to shine, kind of thing.
100%. Well, Mateo, we can't wait to see you shine again back in the BFL cage in the co-main event against Taylor Christopher at BFL 74 this Wednesday on UFC Fight Pass. But before I let you go, Mateo, plug yourself out there on social media and where anyone can find you out there in the realm of social media.
Right on, man. So I'm on Instagram, Carapato MMA, CARRAPATO MMA, one word. And yeah, man, I also got a millions.com profile. So if you guys want to buy some of my merch, I just released some new t-shirts that I'm going to take off right before the fight. But yeah, if you want to grab those, you can do those on millions.co, Mateo Vogel. But yeah, that's about it, man.
All right, Mateo. Well, best of luck coming on Wednesday when you defend your featherweight title against Taylor Christopher. Mateo, thanks for the time and hope to talk again soon.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.